everybody, it's Chris from the Evermore podcast, Newcastle United podcast on the Evermore YouTube channel. Back with another Rumour Has It video where we're talking about players who have been linked to the club over the summer. And this player has been linked a hell of a lot, and he's also been linked to a few other clubs recently as well. So we're going to get stuck into that in a minute. Just before we do a little bit of housekeeping, as I always say, if you haven't already, please click that like and subscribe button. We've finally gone over the 1,000 subscribers, which we're massively thankful for to everybody who's clicked that button. And if you haven't already, please do so and hit the notification bell. And every time we do one of these videos, you'll be notified that we're up and chatting about another player. So without further ado, we'll get stuck into this player. It's a player I'm a massive fan of. There's no secret. I've been waxing lyrically about this lad ever since the takeover happened, probably in the maybe a chance we're finally showing some ambition and we can go after some decent players. So the player I'm talking about is James Ward-Prowse of Southampton. Free kick expert extraordinaire, really, as we all know. 27-year-old, right-footed. Mark's highlighted his key strengths there. But anyone who's ever watched James Ward-Prowse knows exactly what it is. It's his set pieces, it's his passing, it's his shooting from range. But you can see from the heat map there as well, he's such a busy player. He's everywhere all over the park. I'm a huge fan of this player. And you can see from the stats there, per 90 minutes. Southampton had an okay season. They started off really well, but they weren't brilliant. But you can see from stats there, he's in the 0.28 goals per game. He's in the 96th percentile. He's got 0.14 assists a game, so he's in the 79 percentile. So you can see there he's had 36 Premier League games, 10 goals and 5 assists. And in the Cups, he's got 6 appearances, 1 goal and 3 assists. So he's been absolutely brilliant from midfield this season. His shots on target, as you can see there, he's in 89 percentile of players in his position across the top 5 leagues in Europe. So he's just a phenomenal footballer, to be honest with you. The only kind of area where he really struggles a little bit, I suppose, is his pass completion and his passes into the area, but his passes into the final third. And his key passes, as you can see there, are massively high. This player is an absolute quality player. And I think he would be a brilliant addition to the club. He really would be. Southampton are talking about major money for this lad. They're talking about 75 million quid, which I think potentially might just price us out of the market and potentially price James Ward-Prowse out of the market as well. Southampton have had this before in the past, with the likes of Matt Le Tissier and players like that. And Ward-Prowse has become as important to them as Matt Le Tissier once was. Whenever they get a free kick 25, 30 yards from goal, you're worried about it more or less being a penalty. And that's how good this lad is. Penalties, he's second to none as well. He's unbelievable from the penalty spot, but he gets involved in the play, he gets stuck in the tackles, he's passing the ball, he's moving, he's spraying it around. The thought of having this lad in the 3-man midfield with Bruno and Joe Linton would just be unbelievable. But potentially the sign of Bruno Guimaraes might spell the end of this move for us, because I think with Bruno being such a talented player, if Ward-Prowse was to come in and want to get on the ball and move a bit further up the park like he does, it might push Bruno further back in that holding role. And I've got no doubt that Bruno would be unbelievable in that role, but you don't want to stifle Bruno's play, because his stats have been unbelievable since he's come to the club, and he's so much more than just a holding midfielder. I'm quite surprised that the club didn't make a move for Bissouma, who's obviously just gone to Spurs for 25 million. Now, it could be a lot of clubs were put off by his pending court case. Spurs have obviously not done that. They've offered him Champions League football. 25 million's a snip for a player who not too long ago was quoted kind of in the 60s and 70s himself, when the likes of Manchester United were sniffing around. But whether Spurs know something that the rest of us don't, or whether there's a clause in there if he's found guilty of obviously what he's been accused of, they can tear the contract, whatever it may be. I thought that a defensive midfielder might have been a better move for us. Obviously, Cameron's gone to Villa, if we were still linked with that lad, if we were still interested. And obviously, Bissouma gone to Spurs now. But it would be interesting to see if this weight in this Ward-Prowse move. At 27 years old, I think, with all due respect to Southampton, James Ward-Prowse probably needs a bigger challenge, a better club, maybe a club at the higher end of the table. I appreciate that we weren't there, this season. We were kind of in and around Southampton's position. There is talk about West Ham being linked, but I just can't see West Ham forking out 75 million quid for this guy. I really can't. I don't think West Ham are in that kind of strong financial position. I might be wrong, but I just can't see them doing that. And I don't know why James Ward-Prowse would go to West Ham. The only way I could think of that is if they're potentially selling Jared Bowen to maybe a top for club. You know, obviously talk of Mane going to Bayern Munich. I know Nunez has just signed for Liverpool, but potentially they could bring in Jared Bowen as well. I know he's been linked a lot to them, so it is a really interesting one to watch. But there's no doubt in my mind if James Ward-Prowse is an option for the club, that I really hope that they look at it and go for it, because at 27 years old and as good as he is, you know, I think he would add so much quality to the team. You know, not just because of his ability from set pieces, but just his work rate as well. I think Eddie Howe would really, really take him up levels and get the best out of him in a black and white shirt. I think we'd all absolutely love to see him in a Newcastle shirt. But, you know, again, with that price range, as I said, it could be a little bit out there. But let us know what you think in the comments below, guys, about James Ward-Prowse. If you're, you know, you'd be excited to see him at the club. If 75 million quid's a bit too much money, if you'd rather seen that spent a bit more wisely. You know, there's been a lot of stories coming out of the club aren't going to be taken for a ride. They're not going to be hyped up by this Newcastle tax. And potentially, if Ward-Prowse is 75 million quid, you know, we might see more silly buggery, like we've seen with Lille and Sven Botman apparently. But you know, let us know what you guys think in the comments below. And as I said before, if you haven't already, please click that like and subscribe button. You know, we'd love to have you on board. There's loads of new content coming on through the summer, and then, you know, we're going to be back the next season, kicking off ever more. With a weekly Newcastle podcast, and hopefully, you know, it'll be with a lot of new players on board, maybe James Ward-Prowse, who knows. But until then, it's Chris signing off. Let's keep supporting that team of United, and we'll catch you later. Cheers.